Hi there, my crafty friends. It is Ashley Pfeiffer, the maker behind Stamped AF. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Canada. And if you are new here, thank you, first of all. We're doing a very special hop with Parcels and Petals this month. It has not gotten a whole lot of attention in the new annual catalog, and I wanted to show it some love. And I knew right off the hop when I saw this one that I wanted to show it some love. So in case you have missed it in your catalog, it is right up here on page 6. Now in Canada it is $69.25 and it's on page 27. So you can see that adorable sample. And then on page 27, there are some very cute boxes, and you can see they've got two different sizes here. They've wrapped them all together with the new delightful tag topper. Super cute. And it's got a gorgeous watercolor effect. The mixed font scripts, mixed fonts just have my heart. I love a good mixed font. And then this, and they're just so cute. So we are going to make both a box and a card today using this bundle. Now I want to show you the box. We're going to start with that because it's called Petals and Parcels, and to me the box is the star of the show. So I've done a little belly band on here, which even on its own is adorbs. And then there's nothing in here, but you just open it up. And I've used watercolor paper actually, so this is quite sturdy. You can see a little faux pas in there. Anyways, we are going to make another one of these and a matching card. So initially I had a very different card planned out. Was doing a lot of ink blending, but in the end, I'll show you that card. But in the end, I decided I wanted these to coordinate because I thought you'd give them as a gift, right? And I just love this denim ribbon, so I wanted to find a way to include that. So the card I was going to show you is this one. And if I could have done it in similar colors, I would have, but I really don't think these colors would have blended all that well together. Maybe I'll do it another day. But this was the card I was going to do, and I have since changed my mind. So let's start with the box. I have got one piece already done, so I'm going to show you how I did this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The colors I am using are So Saffron, Terracotta Tile, which is a new in color, Soft Seafoam, and Pretty Peacock, which is another new in color. So we are going to, I've already done this one side, so we'll cut that one. But we are going to need some watercolor paper. And with this box, it fits perfectly on a 6-inch piece of paper. So this one is good to go. So we need, I'll tell you exactly what size. Sorry about my arm. It is 4.5 by 6. So I will cut another piece of 4.5 by 6. And then while I was there, for our card, we are going to need 4.25 by 5.5. So we'll set that piece aside, and we shall get to stamping. So I decided to cut my stamps apart because it was all one big flower stamp, and I decided I wanted to be able to move mine here, there, and everywhere. I didn't want to have the same, I didn't want to be limited. So here I have taken out the leaf, that funky little tiny flower, and the 3 flowers. So we will mount each of those to an appropriate sized block. So this one is Terracotta Tile, this one is Soft Seafoam, and I should mention I did bring in one stamp that is not part of this set, and it is this from Waterfront. You could avoid using that stamp by just splattering with some markers. but this was easier. So this is Pretty Peacock. Whoops. Now the other three we can mount on some blocks, and we're going to open up the So Saffron, and I'm going to stamp a couple of extras. Get to that after. Okay, so I always like to start with the biggest stamp first. So we'll do a few of those just in random order, some of them on the sheet, some of them off the sheet. Okay. And then some of the smaller. One more over here. And there's no right or wrong. You just want to fill up any spaces. We'll have that one kind of touching. I didn't do that on the other one, but that may be the bottom of the box. Okay, and just clean them off. And now we can grab our soft sea foam and do our leaves. And I like to do a leaf for every flower, of the large ones at least, in a different location. And then just a few randoms. Changing it to a different side of the flower each time so that you don't have them all going the same way. Let's turn this one there. One more up here. That should be good. Clean that guy off. Now we're ready for our terracotta tile. You can see how quickly this comes together, right? So these are just going to fill in some of those spaces. Just looking to see if there's any more that I should do or if it's gonna be too much. I think it's gonna be too much. Okay, so you can see on this one that I didn't just leave them the way they were, right? So I took the Terracotta Tiles Stampin' Right marker, and you can order the Stampin' Right markers, the in color, as a family, and that's only $20. You can order all of the families. They are $40 each, so you can order all the neutrals or all the subtles or all the brights, all the regals. Or you can order the whole shebang. And I highly recommend that if you're doing that, you consider purchasing the starter kit, or you host a very successful party where you get a half off item. Now, that being said, I am also going to be starting an online stamp club. So for the last 6 months, I've had an in-person, oops, I shouldn't have colored that part. I've had an in-person color club, or sorry, stamp club, and we meet the last Sunday of the month, and they come here, they make all the projects that I've designed. But there are people that aren't able to make it to my neck of the woods, so I want to start offering an online class, an online stamp club. Okay, so now I'm just taking my aqua painter and just kind of making a mess of that. Just go over the whole thing. So for those that are anywhere in Canada that would like to purchase the products whilst staying on a budget of $35 a month minimum, you can spend more than that, but $35 is the minimum. You will order your products, you'll stay on your budget, I mean, if you don't, you don't, but, and you will get free projects every month. So if you are interested in that, just send me an email at stampedaf@gmail.com or head over to my website, stampedaf.ca. Now the last step is to add this little bit of pretty peacock dots. And you're kind of trying to stay away from these because you don't want that water to run. Now, if you're concerned about that, you can hit it with a heat tool or leave it to sit for a little bit. You don't have to use the whole thing. You can just put a few random dots here and there by just pressing part of the stamp down. I think that's looking pretty good. Maybe a couple in there. Okay, so now we are ready to die cut. And I don't typically bring my big shot into the shot every time, but I want you to see that it is crucial to have this lined up just so. And you can use whatever die cutting machine you have. Stampin' Up! Is no longer offering the big shot. So I've got my big shot platform, my thin die adapter, and my messy bottom plate. I'm going to take the box die, and feel free to use your magnetic plate or tape it down, but you do need to make sure that it's edge to edge because it doesn't give you a whole lot of wiggle room. And then you're just going to take that through. See, this is partly why I don't bring the big shot in, because it slides all over the place on my grid paper. So this cuts and scores at the same time. There we go. Beautiful, right? Very little waste. So you can see that again, line it up, both ends. So this will work with 6x6 paper. I have done it with DSP. It's not quite as sturdy as I would have liked it to be, but I will show you that in just a moment. Just want you to know that it is possible. Actually, I'll just cut that part after. I was gonna say we might as well do this other stuff while we're in here, but let's hold on. We'll assemble the box first. Okay, so now you can, because this is watercolor paper, it is super thick. So I am going to use my bone folder to burnish these edges. Another option would be to give this a good spritz and it would kind of make everything run. But I don't want to do that. Okay, so we've got a score line there, we've got a score line here. We've got these little tabs at the end. And we've got these guys. This is easier to do on a solid piece of cardstock your first time around. I would not recommend doing this as your first project. I know we've got some very talented demonstrators on this hop. I was so thrilled when they all agreed to be a part of this hop because, I mean, really, who am I? And I didn't have a lot of the details worked out. I just knew that I wanted a demonstrator from each of the markets. I must have practiced on the back side of that one. This is the one we just did. So yeah, I was so honored and thrilled when everyone agreed to do this. So I would love to know in the comments below where you found me from. If you are coming from a demonstrator that you usually follow or whatever the case may be. Okay, so first step is we are going to add some Tombow to these tabs. You could use tear and tape as well. So we are going to line them up, making sure that these score lines and these score lines are lined up. Hold that down for a second so it can set. And then you're going to move on to the other tabs. And I do like to give these ones a little bit longer to set, especially given that this is watercolor paper. But I also don't want you to have to hang around for hours. Okay, so again, making sure that those score lines line up, because if they don't, you are going to have one wonky box. Just give them a bit of a squeeze. Okay, now this is the part where it gets really confusing if you're not sure what you're doing. You want to fold these two tabs. It's embossed, like it's scored there. Fold them back and apply some glue. And you want to, I find it easiest to begin the folding process. Remember to fold that one down first. See, even when you've done it a few times, it can be difficult. Okay, so let's fold that in. That didn't work. This is what, okay. Anyway, I've gotten it wrong there. Okay, so you want to fold that part down, and then, yeah, I mucked around so long that there's not enough glue on there. So you want to fold that part in onto that flap, and then just squeeze them there for a moment. I apologize, I haven't made this box in a few weeks. I was so excited when everyone agreed that I made my sample. Okay. You can also use tear and tape for this. Let's help that guy come up there. Nope, it doesn't want to stay down. Because I got glue on the inside. So, I'm kind of showing you what not to do. Okay, so let's assemble this. Those tabs should fit in just right. Now, because I got glue on the inside, you can take an adhesive eraser and just kind of get rid of any residue. There we go. And then you're just going to fold those parts down. And I like to give this a bit of a bend. Pop it on in there. And that is the completed box. So now let's move on to our little belly band. We need some So Saffron, some terracotta tile, and another little scrap of watercolor paper. Leave that off for the time being. Okay, so I just have a card mat in terracotta tile. We'll cut the little center out. That is a great way to save your cardstock. So we need this die, and this die. And while I'm here, I'm just going to put these away. Going back to this, don't ever be afraid to cut your stamps. I know the first time is terrifying, but if it's going to work better for you that way, it's so worth it, my friends. It is so much easier than masking it. And if I wanted to use all 3 of these stamps together again, all I have to do is line them up and put them on my D block. So, not so bad. Now we need this little guy as well. Just want to make sure I'm getting out all the pieces. And there are so many cute little accessories in here. Speaking of which, here is one that has that delightful tag topper on it. It's also got those cute little cutouts. And this is just DSP. This one has that little embossed piece, which is super cute. And then I just used the story label punch with the scripty embossing folder, and then that cute little tag, and a little something with the shimmer white embossing powder. So whatever you want. Now with the belly band, I can give you precise measurements, but typically what I do is I cut a strip and I measure around, so there's no goofing up. We're gonna put this back on here. So I'm just going to cut a 1/2 inch strip off of this. And this is the full 11 inches. And then we want to cut this. So I'm just going to trim that away from the rest of my cardstock. I don't want to get all of the prints from my Big Shot on that piece of cardstock. I don't know why that was so hard to say. And then for this one, we're just going to die cut it out of the middle, and then we can still use this as a mat on something else. And then I like to just put a block on there to let it set. Now we can measure for our belly band. So just fold at your edges and easy peasy. You don't have to measure, you don't have to score. You want to loosen it up just a little bit so that you can get your belly band on and off. So don't put it as tight as the box is. Leave a little bit of wiggle room. Otherwise you're never going to get it back on. And maybe not get it off. Now it doesn't matter if this isn't perfectly straight, because the piece that we're flattening right now will cover it. You could also use ribbon for this part if you wanted to. Okay. And since this is still a little bit wet, I'm going to move it just a tiny bit tighter. Okay, and you can put a block on there too if you want. Now we want to take this little piece and we're going to die cut it. So in case you haven't noticed, everything I'm using is watercolor paper with the exception of this colored cardstock. But it's not often that you use watercolor paper for every little bit of your project, is it? But it is super sturdy. You could put, I did hear someone say that these are called fudge boxes, so you could definitely put a big chunk of fudge in there and it would hold up. Okay, so there's that piece. We're not going to cut out this little one yet because I want to stamp on it still. So we're going to get out the medium flower and our So Saffron ink. We're just going to stamp on the edge there. Pardon my arm. And then we're going to use our soft sea foam. And do a couple of leaves. So 1, 2. Then if you see, I did put one of those terracotta tile flowers on there just so that we had all 3 of the colors from the box. Now if you don't have a stamp pad, an ink pad for one of the colors, you can always use the Stampin' Up markers. So we'll use terracotta tile, and this is the marker to stamp technique. So there we go. And again, we'll color that in. Get our aqua painter and soften it just a little bit. And lastly, our pretty peacock will be the sentiment, which is a little something. There are really some truly beautiful sentiments in here though. Somebody loves you lots and lots, which unfortunately would not fit on this tag. Birthday all year, you're the best, you did it, thank you, a little something, and to and from. But I'm going to keep this as originally designed. So a little something. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? Now you don't need to use this little die at the end, but I wanted to figure out how to work in my denim ribbon, which I know doesn't match anything else in here, but it is so close to the pretty peacock that you don't really notice. At least I don't. Maybe it's because I wanted to work its way in there. Let's close that up. Place this on, and you're just going to place it close to the edge. Run it through the Big Shot. Okay, and now I'm just going to run it through one more time. I'm not sure if you can see those marks. So a lot less noticeable now. We're going to put this die away before I lose it because it is so cute. And now with the denim ribbon, we're just going to cut a little scrap. Could have probably been a little bit longer. And I have from the Nature's twine, I just separated it so that it's not all of the plies. Just want a couple, otherwise it's a little too, it's too stiff. So we're going to run this through that biggest center hole. And it will fray a little bit, but we can cut it. Just pull it tight. What I like to do is turn them so that they're both facing the same way, so that they have, both of them will have exactly the same angle. Okay, and then I like to turn it back so that they're both pointing inwards. So take this little bit of ribbon, twine, and I'm sorry, you probably can't see a whole lot. Just my fingers. You can definitely cut the twine after you've secured it so that it's easier to work with, but I don't always work smart. I'm creative. Not really a huge planner. Okay, and then just trim those little ends. There we go. Isn't that adorable? And I still have enough to make one more. So now I'm not going to put my glue on there. I'm going to put it on here because I don't want it to stick to the box. Just eyeball it to make sure it's in the middle. And again, you can put that block on it. But because there's nothing in here, I find it easier to just hold it. And then all I did was I popped a dimensional on this baby. Maybe two. One at either end. You could tie it on, but I like how this ribbon is just kind of there for decoration, not for function. And then I had thought originally of putting it that way, but just center it again. And there we go. How cute are those? Right? Okay, now on to the coordinating card. So I've left all of my colors out. I'm just gonna tidy up a little bit because I don't know if I'm gonna need all these tools. Okay, now full disclosure, I have not made this card yet. I have an idea, but I have not actually made it. So we are going to start by doing the same thing we did with the box. We're gonna take our 3 stamps, which used to be 1 stamp. Now, in case you're thinking, oh my goodness, I gotta sit through this and watch it again, I am changing it up. It's gonna be the same colors, but it's not going to be a 1-layer card. So before you skip on to the next video, I just want to give you that heads up. Just do a little bit of fussy cutting. Now this is watercolor paper, so it is super thick. Okay, so we've got 1 of each. Now what I'm going to do is take my bone folder and soften those edges, just pull them up. So then for one of the flowers, we can have them sticking up, or we can even do one where it's offset like that, and then we layer it with this one. Whatever we do, that will be the accent flower that will surround the sentiment. So, which one's that gonna be? I'm thinking this one. Okay, so we still need to do our leaves and those little terracotta tile flowers and our pretty peacock. With the Pretty Peacock Stampin' Right marker, you can tell that one of the things you're really going to want to have for this is the in color Stampin' Right markers. Take off the cap and just flick. And the closer you are, the more the splatter, the further away, the more of a spray it is. You don't want to go overboard because it can be very easy to go overboard. And if you want some bigger spots, just go in with your marker and make them that way. And then when you're done, just make a loop around that cap and soak up any of the ink that just got out. And a tip for you, I was shocked to realize that some of my customers and team members did not know that the ink refills that you use for your stamp pads are also for your Stampin' Right markers. So you can drop a couple of dots just on the nib, or you can use some dedicated pliers to just very gently pull that nib out and add a few drops. So these markers are good forever. Okay, I think I'm going to trim just a little bit off because right now it is actually covering quite a bit of our card. Now the other thing I can do is add this cute little thing, and that will let some of the pattern show through. I think that's what I'm going to do. It's super cute. So I thought about going right under there or trying to line it up twice, but let's just go off to that one side. Oh, that's so cute. So if those little marks from die bug you, just run it through your Big Shot with no embossing folder or anything in there, and it will flatten them a little bit, which is far better. Oh, that is so adorable. Now I have some little bits of extraneous powder here, so I'm just going to take my Tombow Mono sand eraser and get rid of them. You don't want to press too hard because this will take the finish right off of your cardstock. But if you have just little bits here and there that you want to get rid of, it is perfect. It will also take off ink, but again, you have to be careful. Okie dokie. Thinking right about there. Now, the only problem with having used this die is that we don't really have room for this flower, but I suppose we could put it up there. And what I want to do before I move on to that is just give this a bit of definition, because right now it's just piles of yellow on top of each other. So let's add a nice little terracotta tile border to all of these. You could add a couple of leaves in here too, but I think I've kept you long enough. If you're still sticking around. If you're still sticking around, thank you so much. We're gonna pop this up on a couple of dimensionals. Put a mini up in that corner. That wasn't altogether necessary, but that last one came along for the ride, so if it insists. Okay, if I do it right there, I still get that little bit of a flower that pops up from there, and you can still see that one in there. So that is where it's going. And then let's glue you can just play around until you get it the way you want it. And I think I'm going to modify this one just a little bit because it's weird. There's no real petal in there. And for the final little touch, let's just put a couple of little dots in here. I'll take it a step further and use some Cajun Craze right in the middle. Darken it up. There we go. So now all we need is a card base. I'm gonna get some Whisper White thick cardstock. So we now have a top folding A2 size card, and I will clarify that this is North American. So it is 8.5 by 11. If you are in a different market, then you will have to use your measurements. And we're just gonna glue that on. Now, it's not very often that I cover the whole card front, but we are today. You wanna make sure it's on there perfectly, covering all 4 sides. And Tombow gives you a few seconds to work with it. Okay, so that's on there, and you can put whatever sentiment you like on the inside. I'm going to leave mine blank. And that's all, my friends. I thank you so much for joining me, and I feel like I should be doing one more box to really show you how that came together. But I'm gonna leave it because we've got so many fabulous demonstrators showing this box, and I showed you how to fix it. So there's my claim to fame. My idea to do the hop, and then I mess up the assembly of the box. Wouldn't you just know it? So that is it. I'll show you the bonus card too. This one is just for the idea. So I use Pool Party, Coastal Cabana, Bermuda Bay. And I thought about it after using Pretty Peacock. And that's just white heat embossing. So I thank you so much for joining me, my crafty friends. And if you are new here, please consider hitting that subscribe button below. I drop 2 new videos each week, plus an additional Facebook Live. And if you live in Canada and would like any of the products I've used on these projects, you can go to stampedaf.ca and shop with me. There's a host code there, and I have weekly specials, weekly products of the week. So that is all. Thank you, my crafty friends. Bye.